You have heard a lot of evidence, and we're going to go one by one because this is rebuttal. And the first defense attorney we heard from was Mr. Gonzalez, representing Rashad Murphy. Talked a lot about the phone and what was on his phone. And he made a lot of comments about those messages that are sent from the phone that Rashad Murphy, his client, shares with Charmaine Steiger. There are a couple of messages about those burner phones and who they're supposed to go to. And those are not the messages themselves, those are screenshots. And that is the very limited activity that is on that phone that he uses, that he has been seen in possession with, that he had at the Walmart. And we know that that phone stays in Jacksonville. Rashad Murphy did not stay in Jacksonville. In fact, he lies about the phone. He specifically tells the detectives that he didn't bring his phone with him. In fact, when he says he needs to use a call in his story, one of many that he gave law enforcement, he says that he has to use Darius Beal's phone because he left his phone in Tampa. So those messages that they are putting out in front of you to suggest that he's really in Jacksonville when this homicide is committed is absolutely not any evidence that that is where he is, because when he is confronted with the evidence after he has denied and denied and denied being in Tampa, it is not until he is confronted with the video from Sean Gathright's house. That is when he finally admits, after those detectives get out, those Jacksonville detectives get up and leave the room, when he finally admits exactly where he has been. And even then, it is story after story, because you know that Darius Beals was not ever in Tampa, not on June 22nd, not on June 23rd, and we heard a lot about this 2 phones. One phone was not in use. So Rashad Murphy definitely wasn't using that phone when he lies to law enforcement to suggest he's with Darius Beals, and Darius Beals drove him from Jacksonville to Tampa. Darius Beals was not around to be interviewed, but they did research and look into the information on that phone. And what is clear is they were also not just looking at the cell site location and where the phone actually was, which never came to Tampa, not on the 22nd, not on the 23rd. Darius Beals, that phone was never utilized by this defendant in Tampa. And we know that it is Darius Beal's phone because they looked into who is the actual possessor of a phone. Because anybody can use anyone's device, but phones are very personal to a person. It has information on there regarding your calendar, regarding all your contacts, everything that you look up on social media. Phones stay with a person. And so the detectives delved into Darius Beal's phone and saw over 30 unlocks on his phone, including on the 22nd and on the 23rd. And it is by facial recognition. And now you've heard, oh yes, there may be more than one person that has a facial recognition on a particular phone. The problem with that is there are multitudes of photos on that phone, and they are trying to see who is actually using the phone. And on June 23rd at midnight, there is a selfie. Darius Beals isn't in Tampa when these homicides are being committed. He is unlocking his phone and he is taking photographs of himself. Lots of people take selfies. And the selfies that they found during the time when this homicide is occurring is of Darius Beals. And it should come as no surprise. That is because it is his phone. It shows where he is. They did the location data. It shows that he is in the vicinity of his home, where he is taking photos of himself occasionally during that time period. It is another lie because they are confronted with evidence. And you heard about consciousness of guilt. Consciousness of guilt is when you are lying to law enforcement or go to great efforts to avoid prosecution because you know you are guilty of the crime that you have committed. That is what consciousness of guilt evidence is. And that is why you have heard about the efforts of law enforcement to bring to justice all 4 of these defendants and the great efforts that they have gone to avoid prosecution, avoid being caught for killing Charles Jones. And it starts with Sean Gathright getting rid of the murder vehicle, the vehicle where 3 assailants were. He doesn't take that car back to Jacksonville. He hides it in Polk County, the last place that anybody would be looking for that vehicle. We don't find the black Chevy Impala in Jacksonville in his driveway where it was when they were loading up all the firearms in his car from his house. We don't find that in Jacksonville. It certainly isn't in Tampa because after they committed the crime, they left. We don't find the silver Chevy Cruze in Jacksonville either. Because after Rashad Murphy gets back to Jacksonville in the Uber with his co-defendants Isaiah Chance and Alicia Andrews, and Davion Murphy has driven the silver Chevy Cruze back in Jacksonville, they don't just take this vehicle they used in a murder to Jasmine Glennon, the mother of their brother's child. They remove the silver Chevy Cruze out of the state because they all know those are the 2 very vehicles that they drove all night tracking the victim. That is consciousness of guilt. He doesn't live in Georgia. And Sean Gathright didn't live on Opal Ave in Polk County. But that is where they are taking the very vehicles that they used to commit this homicide. Mr. Gonzalez showed you the 101 L2. Showed you this photograph, evidence of proof of the phones, and that message, which we both know was not sent by him, Rashad Murphy, in Jacksonville. Tries to look at what the shoes are, that it came from the phone. We know that this is what was bought in Walmart the day before. Talks about all the weaknesses of the case. What he's wearing. Anybody could be dressed in black. Anybody can be wearing combat boots. Anybody can be wearing a ski type mask or hoodie or hat on your head. Never once mentions this Walmart trip where he is getting ready to commit a first-degree homicide that you can clearly see the handle of a firearm. He's going to take that to the prison to smuggle in phones? He's not getting ready to smuggle phones. All of you know what the evidence in this case shows. He is getting ready to commit a first-degree premeditated murder. The Airbnb. Does it matter if he is the one that booked it himself or that he gave his ID to his co-defendant, Isaiah Chance, to book it for all of them? What is clear, whether or not he tries to say or distance himself by saying to law enforcement he doesn't want no part of Tampa. He never would have done it if it was in Tampa. Well, ask yourselves this. Why does it matter that the Airbnb is in Tampa as opposed to any other city that Isaiah Chance had to go visit? There's only one reason why he can't be associated to an Airbnb in Tampa, and that is because this Airbnb is in Tampa the very weekend that Charles Jones is murdered. There is no explanation why that even matters. The only reason it matters is because Charles Jones is killed here and he is being questioned specifically in relation to that murder. There was a lot of talk about Robert Howard. You should scrutinize everything that Robert Howard said. And you'll notice in our first close when we went over the mountain of evidence in this case that absolutely proves each and every player, each and every defendant in this case, there was no mention of Robert Howard. This case has been proven over and over and over again, with each piece of item being more compelling and making this case stronger than it is based on what you see with your own eyes. Mr. Gonzalez talked about circumstantial and direct evidence. Both of those are types of evidence that you can utilize. This isn't just a circumstantial case. There is direct evidence in this case. Direct evidence is stuff that you hear from eyewitnesses, eyewitness testimony that was there. We have talked about that silent witness. And you know exactly how this crime was committed. They are asking you to disregard what you can see with your own eyes and look at a small part of our evidence and look at it and ignore every other item of evidence that we have presented to you. Detective Ramos never said that he could not have evidence of Rashad Murphy being in Tampa when this homicide was committed. When the question was asked 5 different ways to where he was pinned in, to ignore all of the other evidence, all of the other factors, and just look at the video. I'm asking you, just looking at the video, is there any evidence in the video where my client can be seen? The honest answer to that is no. He's never on the room video, right? All of the masked men have their faces covered. So his face is not identifiable. So if you want to ignore every other piece of evidence in this case and rely just on the video, then that is the only time Detective Ramos, when he made the attorney ask him that specific question, was willing to say, no, there is no video that you can see the face of Rashad Murphy. But every other question when he was asked, is my client, is there evidence that my client is in Tampa the weekend when Charles Jones was murdered, that detective said yes, because there is a mountain of evidence that proves that he was there. and his name is Ghost. And these Jacksonville gang detectives, they know that he is Ghost. That's how everybody refers to him, as Ghost. Everybody knows Charles Jones is Foolio. Everybody knows Charles Jones is 6. And everybody in Jacksonville knows that he's Ghost. But you don't have to rely on Detective Nieder for that. You don't have to rely on any of the detectives from Jacksonville. You don't have to rely on the investigative work that Detective Ramos did when he tracked down Google Pay that requires a name and a financial institution that is associated with Ghost 187. We can rely on Sean Gathright that this is Ghost. You don't have to rely on one Jacksonville gang detective for that information, because when we got Sean Gathright's phone, he has the phone that he uses with Charmaine Steiger saved in his phone, his trusted co-defendant, the person he works with. He calls him Ghost. He knows he's Ghost too. Phone number so important to Sean Gathright that when he got rid of his phone and tried to erase all of the information on that phone from the weekend when they murdered Charles Jones, Foolio, that he then, when he is setting up his new phone, not realizing what was backed up on his iCloud, that he has specifically written down 2 people's names. GH, that phone number, 904-386-0925, is the very phone that was in his possession in the silver Chevy Cruze when he is arrested in Gwinnett County in one of the suspect vehicles. And guess what? Not only was he saved in his old phone when he's committing the crime as Ghost, he is now going to reprogram it into his new phone, and he has designated it GH. It's not RM, Rashad Murphy, it's GH, the first 2 letters of Ghost. Going back to Robert Howard. Robert Howard testified in this case 100% after he had pled and was facing prison. Not willing to talk to law enforcement before then, gave a brief statement to the detectives. That is not something they do. Nobody in this gang war is going to law enforcement for any kind of justice. They are looking for justice on the streets. And then when he gets popped for a drug offense and is facing sentencing, he comes for the first time to the state. The state has promised him nothing. He is not needed to prove this case, but he is the only person other than the gang experts that can give us any eye into this world. And one of the things that he tells us about is a posting that Charles Jones does when he is on social media. And you know what Charles Jones does, and they are trying to say that none of these defendants care about these deaths that 6 Block has taken credit for. None of them care that Charles Jones has drill rap music that makes fun of their friends, their gang members, the people they call family, that he has made drill rap music videos that denigrate them, that insult them, that make fun of their deaths. You saw that when I See You. He is at a gravesite of the 3 people that were killed in the town center in Jacksonville. Robert Howard was able to tell us that this photograph that Charles Jones posted, again, to incite people, to inflame people, to add to his drill rap clicks, and to make it more controversial, that is Charles Jones, Foolio, photographing himself and others of 6th Block at 23's gravesite. That is where that original post came from. It is then shared by Isaiah Chance in a very different light. 23 is someone who he cares about. 23 is the necklace that you have seen that shows that he is a part of this gang war. He has posted this photo that was on Charles Jones' Instagram story, disrespecting 23, where they're all at his gravesite, disrespecting his death. And he said he reposted this picture to his public Instagram, the biggest mistake anyone on earth could do. He doesn't care about what Charles Jones has done. He's not angry at Charles Jones. Again, you decide who is credible, who is not credible. We don't need Robert Howard to prove this case. This case has been proven over and over and over again. But Robert Howard could provide law enforcement with rare insight that they could not get other means, by giving them intelligence into some of the meaning behind some of these postings. We're going to talk about Rashad Murphy's statement one last time. A statement that a defendant makes is only admissible against himself. It is not trustworthy with anybody else, because the reasoning is that if they are going to make some kind of implication or incriminating statement, it would only be true if they were truly making it about themselves. Because we expect people who commit crimes to point fingers. And so in the rare moments when they tell the truth about one single fact, it can help prove a case. And so nobody identified Rashad Murphy in any of those videos because their faces cannot be seen. But certainly Rashad Murphy identifies himself. And when confronted with the evidence, he had no other choice to then finally admit that he was in Tampa. So yes, we have the right person. He still lies and tries to maintain that he wasn't in Tampa until after the homicide. But it literally makes no sense, because at some point, I believe Mr. Gonzalez pointed out that he would not absolutely ever agree to an Airbnb in Tampa, yet miraculously the next day he's got to go to Tampa to check it out. And what is more preposterous about his story, because again, he is caught. He can't admit to what he has done. But what is most preposterous about this story is having no idea where the Airbnb is, having no idea where the address of the Airbnb is, that he magically shows up in Tampa at the address of that Airbnb, because we know he gets into the Uber, and that he doesn't ring the Ring doorbell like any other normal person checking out an Airbnb for the first time. They are trying to normalize going at a Airbnb, a place that you are vacationing or staying in temporarily, and going to a side parking lot of a place that you normally don't know and trudging through a dirt path to a wooden privacy fence to go through a sliding glass door. It is beyond belief. It is another lie because they have been caught. So identification of Rashad Murphy as one of the people in Tampa comes from his own mouth. Let's talk about Sean Gathright. I don't know what world it is where you try to say that the evidence from the Toyota 4Runner that he is driving in Jacksonville is not a treasure trove of evidence. Really, nothing relevant from the Toyota 4Runner, a shell casing that matches the murder of the homicide victim is not a piece of evidence relevant to the Tampa homicide. That's not direct evidence of motive. They tried to kill him in October of 2023, was not successful. And evidence is found in their car. What more relevant tie directly linking Sean Gathright to this homicide do we need? So let's now go to his house. Because not only does he have the misfortune of being directly tied to the first threat on the deceased victim's life, there's more evidence in his house, in a locked safe. There are 2 shell casings that are fired by the same handgun that is fired into that Dodge Charger here in Tampa. What horrible luck for Mr. Gathright. There's more evidence. Let's go back to the Toyota 4Runner. All of that ammunition, because he still has ammo, he didn't save the boxes of all the rounds and rounds and rounds that were fired in Tampa, and he's got more of it. That somehow suggests that he's not involved in this case. MaxTech is a common brand, but there are dozens and dozens of different type of ammunition that can be fired in a 9mm. And he just happens to have the exact brand in his truck of all the shell casings, all 31 that were left here at our homicide scene. There is link after link after link of Sean Gathright to this case. Suspect vehicle, Sean Gathright. Other suspect vehicle, Rashad Murphy. We know who was in there. And let's get one thing clear. I don't call Isaiah Chance Mr. Rich on War. He gave himself that moniker. I'm just telling you what the evidence in this case shows. And he chose Mr. Rich on War for a cash app where you receive and send money. That is his choice. That was his decision. And it clearly is his cash app because Gathright is his rapper name. And you saw all of those different names that he decided to use. And he, before this homicide, decides that he is going to go as Mr. Rich off War. And we know that he gets payments from other people that are in gangs. This is a very real gang war. Was Rashad Murphy a gang member? You heard all of the evidence regarding Rashad Murphy from Detective Griffin. You saw a lot of videos. you saw videos where there are all kinds of drill raps. There were 3 of them. Is it a crime to hang out with your childhood friend Noah Williams? It's not. But we know he's been stopped twice in a vehicle with him. And we know he's been in 3 different videos. And these aren't just rap videos. These are drill rap videos that you saw for yourself. You saw what type of music it was, that they were flashing signs. They also were flashing 6. We know who 6 is. And whether it's down or up, it certainly seems to be very disrespectful and very violent to be shooting what appears to be a gun towards it. He is very much a gang member and met multiple different criteria. And most importantly, per statute, per law, not because he's casually hanging out with family or childhood friends, because he is committing a first-degree premeditated murder of the head of their rival gang with other members of the gang. And right after this, their gang members are posting videos, Foolio dead, game over. You heard, it's for clicks and likes and money. It is monetized. The more likes, the more profane, the more shocking, the more likes, the more clicks, the more money. That isn't a benefit. Davion Murphy, let's again talk about consciousness of guilt. There was a lot of media on this case. He absolutely was hiding. And again, 7 months. He was the longest. He was able to hide for 7 months. They can try to characterize it any way they want, but you got to hear it for yourself because he said it multiple times. I'm hiding in plain sight. He's hiding everywhere. Airbnbs. He used some colorful language, what he's doing, how he's hiding, how he's frequenting women. But he clearly is hiding from law enforcement. So again, what we're talking about is evading prosecution, evading justice for the crime that you have committed. And he was friendly with those Jacksonville gang detectives, told them outright he was hiding from them, making them do their job, right? He absolutely was hiding from law enforcement. He's not staying with his family. Those are the first places that they went to. And you heard them questioning him about it. Because they were looking for him and he knew it. Let's talk about what he finally had to admit to. He had to admit that he was in Tampa. Because guess what? He also is on the ring video. So when confronted 7 months later, do you think he might have had contact with his cousin, his family, Rashad Murphy? Any big coincidence that they're using the same type of alibi? And I know that they put up the photograph to show, I guess, to try to suggest that Davion Murphy isn't in Tampa, even though his phone is, because the phone is calling Rashad Murphy, Charmaine Steiger's phone, because it's in Jacksonville. And I actually do agree with the defense attorney on this, that most likely in both of those instances, Rashad Murphy is calling home to check on Charmaine Steiger, both of those times. And he's able to use his cousin's phone, Davion Murphy, because they're in Florida together. So that explains all of the back and forth, the calls, because they can't refute that Davion Murphy's phone is in here in Tampa when the homicides are being committed, when the attempted homicides are being committed. He's just not the one using it to call Charmaine. He's letting his cousin call home because his cousin was smart enough to leave his phone in Jacksonville. And when we talk about him not using his phone during the murder, in this day and age, and all the attention that cell phones have been getting in the news, GPS tracking, geofence, you better believe they know their phones can be tracked. That is why they're using a girlfriend, a person who is not known to be in a gang, and why some of them think that just by turning it off, that will erase all of the evidence, or by throwing the phone away, not realizing that there are backups. And also, can we show the photo of Bill Belichick that was found at what time? I think it was 4:56. So this was posted to Rashad Murphy's Instagram account. 6:23, 8:10 in the morning. Pretty early since we know what they were doing all night. But they're actually, before it's posted, it is saved because, again, Rashad Murphy does not have his phone. He does not have Darius Beale's phone. This exact photograph is searched on Davion Murphy's phone. $4:56 a.m. 4:56 a.m. Remember the USF body cam? The shooting had just happened. Armani Turner, Robert Howard, and Miss Randolph fleeing for their lives, desperate to get to USF. USF is close. USF is across the street from Home to Suites. And there is a traffic stop in USF's jurisdiction. And they immediately go to her and Officer Fusco, USF, and they immediately bring them all back. Remember the timing of that? They are searching this celebration post before media is there, as TPD and first responders are responding. How do they know that they're going to need Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, the GOAT, that they have taken out 6th block? How do they know that they're going to need that at 4:56? And again, I agree Davion Murphy is not doing that. It's Rashad Murphy using his phone because he's getting ready to post to his ghost Instagram Bill Belichick and laughing emojis. I want to talk about this argument about Sean Gathright and the cell phone towers hitting. I'm trying to find, I wrote it down, the exact time where you see a tower utilizing that is pointing at the direction of the Airbnb. Was that 4:39? 4:39. There are multiple hits going off around the murder scene at that time. And you heard from Detective Ramos explain to you that not always the closest tower is being utilized. There could be a variety of reasons why a certain tower is being utilized. USF is on that property. And there is towers there, and there are towers on the other side of USF. And you heard that sometimes it can be a building that is blocking it. It can be based on usage. If there's over usage of a tower, another tower may take over, which absolutely can explain an anomaly that occurs a little bit more north of where the homicide scene has happened. But what happens is it immediately pings right back. There is another hit at 4:39 that is at the homicide scene. And then there are many others that show that that phone is exactly where we believe it is, and that is at the scene of the homicide when this occurs. There are all kinds of hits that are occurring on his phone, and you know that he is moving, the car is moving, they're getting out of the vehicle and moving. But what is clear is the majority of hits at that time are at the home to suites. We go to the social media post of Isaiah Chance. So this photograph that they put up there, that was one of the documentations of his gang activities, where he clearly is throwing up 1,200 signs, but his face appears to be covered. Let's not forget that there was a search warrant done at Isaiah Chance's residence, and in the car during the execution of that search warrant is the very jacket that he's wearing in this photograph where he's throwing up 1,200. And there were things of significance that were found at Isaiah Chance's house. There was also a bully down sign that was relevant and shows, again, he hates 6 Block and the subset bully gang so much that he has made a homemade poster, or maybe been gifted with it. I don't know. I don't have to approve how he got it, who made it. I just know it's further evidence that he does not like bully gang. You heard from Jacksonville experts that this is a sign of disrespect, to either do a sign upside down or specifically for bully gang. This is what they do. They don't call them bully gang, they call them bully down. And he has put it in a prized spot over the fireplace, or I'm sorry, over the window in his house, because he does not like 6 Block and the subset bully gang. And let's talk about Isaiah Chance, because you already have heard, again, statements can only be used against the person that has made it. So Rashad Murphy has identified himself as being in Tampa, reluctantly to law enforcement and not completely truthful. Davion Murphy has admitted he is in Tampa because they are confronted with the evidence, photographic evidence that you all got to see as well, photographic evidence that they could no longer deny but still not telling the truth. Isaiah Chance is also interviewed by law enforcement. And I think the characterization was that he was cooperative. The interview was 2 hours. He continued, although he said he was in Tampa, would not be able to specifically tell the detective where he was at. McDonald's, at some bar. They didn't go in because he talked to the bouncer. We know the 2 clubs that he was at, and there is no video evidence of him ever approaching a bouncer. But again, so we want to talk about identification. He has identified himself as being in Tampa, identified himself as being in the McDonald's. Guess what? That means he's in the silver Chevy Cruze. We have identified him as being in one of those suspect vehicles before they go to hunt and track him down. Some kind of argument from Mr. Gathright's attorney, why is it, or some that he, I guess, suggested it's evidence that he is somehow not trying to track Charles Jones down because he's looking for the Airbnb. Why would he do that if he already knows where he's going to be at teasers when he appears? Could it possibly be because they want to kill him sooner? Could it possibly be that they want to kill him in a less public place than a full parking lot of a club where Charles Jones is going to be appearing, so there will be less witnesses. What clearly that evidence shows all of you is how serious they were about finding him. And this is a concerted effort. It is not just Sean Gathright looking at, you saw that video, what was it, 8 minutes long of him looking for every waterfront pool, Airbnb in Tampa, Airbnb close to teasers. He's posting, Foolio's posting, I'm at an Airbnb. Gathwright's desperate to find him. He's not the only one looking for him. Rashad Murphy is on Instagram messaging, I really need to find this Airbnb. Not the only one. Mizzle is posting with Mr. Six, with Charles Jones. Who's looking up Mizzle? Isaiah Chance. The evidence in this case is overwhelming. And all of the defendants have been identified. All of them. And what the evidence shows you, what you got to see with your own eyes, is that 2 cars that came to Jacksonville for one night, for one purpose, tracking and stalking Charles Jones and his friends. They did it not at one club, they did it at 2 clubs, and then they followed him. And it is the silver Chevy Cruze that follows this car. Let's not forget about the USF pole cam. It is clearly the silver Chevy Cruze that is behind the victim and his friends when they pull off into the hotel. The black Chevy Impala is not even in sight. You cannot see the headlights when that turn happens. And there is nobody who knew other than the silver Chevy Cruze from their side of where Charles Jones and his friends were trying to get a room. Every place the silver Chevy Cruze went first, the black Chevy Impala followed. And then when they knew where the victim was, the black Chevy Impala avoided the line of sight. And one thing that Robert Howard said that you can believe or disbelieve, if he had seen if he had seen Isaiah Chance, if he had seen Rashad or Davion Murphy, he would have been scared. He would have got his weapon. They were armed too. And when I say this was well executed, well coordinated, it was an ambush. None of those victims knew what hit them. They didn't expect what was going to happen to them. All of the defendants have been proven beyond and to the exclusion of all reasonable doubt. They should be held responsible. They have been proven guilty of the only type of homicide that occurred. What separates a first-degree murder from a second-degree murder is premeditation. There can be no more premeditated murder than a hit that was organized in another city where they armed themselves, where they made arrangements for a second vehicle to stalk the victim, where they got masks, where they got enough ammunition to get the job done. This is first-degree premeditated murder. This is attempted murder for all of the people that they fired at and shot at, hoping to kill. Hold them responsible for each and everything that they did. And that means they're guilty as charged of every count, the top count that we have charged them with. Thank you for your time.
All right, members of the jury, that's it for today. So just remember my previous and often repeated admonition on the overnight recess. Don't talk to anybody about anything related to this case. Don't read, watch, listen to any news accounts, or do any independent investigation. Tomorrow morning, you will return at 9 a.m. and I will give you the final instructions on the law, and once I read the law to you, and you all will then begin your deliberations, okay? So just bring with you an overnight bag. Doesn't have to be anything too complicated, but just whatever you might need, and bring it with you. We'll keep it in the jury room, okay? All right, yes, we have a... Bring any and all medicines you need. Bring your medicine with you. I don't know that anyone's going to be checking your medication. It's not, the deputies are not like the TSA, so, I think more than anything, if you do get sequestered, they're going to be looking more for things like if you bring a book, is it something that might be related to this case? But bring whatever you need to be comfortable overnight, all right? You're good. Okay, very good. Okay, so just quickly, let's talk, okay, I'm talking, I know, I understand, Mr. Murphy, Mr. Davion, okay, Mr. Davion Murphy may need to be removed if he can't stop talking. Okay. Okay. So, all right, Mr. Murphy, please stop, okay? You're not helping your situation. Okay. Okay. So after I read the instructions on the law, then I would discharge, at least for the weekend, the 3 alternates, right? And I don't, if we get to a penalty phase, I only think we need 1 alternate for penalty phase. I don't think we need to bring back all 3. So you all just need to think about that before tomorrow. And then, if it were me, the lineup would be, this is if we're going to bring 1 back, the next up alternate would be Juror 168, initials Mr. M.N. The second alternate would be Juror 213, Mr. initials J.M. And the third alternate would be initial Juror 220, initials K.C., Miss K.C. I would be open to, for only bringing back 1, if there's one among them that would like to volunteer, that doesn't have a job to get back to, that they really need to be attending, to let them pick a volunteer, but only if everyone agreed. Otherwise, I would bring back 1 alternate, and that'd be the alternate number 1 that I just mentioned.
Hey, Judge, the one you mentioned, first initials, that was the first alternate. So
Yes, first alternate is Juror 168, initials M.N. Second alternate is Juror 213, initials J.M. Those are 2 males. And then the third alternate is Juror 220, initials K.C.
Your Honor, while we're discussing, we made it as far, we have all 3. I would propose we had the juror who made contact with Ms. Doherty. I don't think it was anything that, I don't think he had ill intentions, but I think it's a violation of the court's instructions. I would propose he be replaced with the first alternate. We don't necessarily have to discharge him, but I would suggest, given that contact that he had, as incidental as it may have been, I would suggest the first alternate should take the spot.
Well, at this point, no one asked me to do anything, but I'm happy to bring him in and talk to him outside of the presence of the others. Just have a discussion with him about what was said and just make sure it's not going to impact him in any way, okay? And then you can renew your motion, so depending upon what he says. And I'm happy to do that in the morning. So just be thinking about how we're going to handle the alternate situation.
Judge, my inclination is to at least have 2 just in case there's any issue. I know that it's asked a lot, but I mean, I have vision files where we have gone through 3
Okay. Well, I'm just raising the topic. You guys just think about it. We'll discuss it in the morning. Okay. Yep.
I'm getting inquiries from my expert witness rebuttal, possible rebuttal witness. By the way, we have set up, evaluation for Saturday at the jail, begin at 9 o'clock. Mr. Davion Murphy and then Mr. Chance will be back to back. My, expert will be appearing by Zoom to conduct the evaluation. I inquired if we could do it on both days, and because of Mother's Day, the jail said we would prefer, because they're gonna be short-staffed, to do it all on Saturday.
Okay.
We've reserved 3 hours per defendant. They inquired about which attorneys would be present. I advised them, I thought it'd probably be Ms. Toomey and Mr. Petridis. I think Mr. Petridis has indicated he's going to appear by Zoom. This is not your client, counsel.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we're talking just about two
Yeah,
clients.
the people who have filed 202 notices, you didn't file a 202 notice, so I don't think we have the right to evaluate your client. So, in any event, I wanted to alert the court to that. Also, another issue's come up this afternoon, around 2:30, Ms. Toomey advised me that she is now calling Dr. Rubino, Mark Rubino, who she listed on April 3rd. He's a neurologist, to testify to brain scans that have been taken of Mr. Murphy. So, she sent me an email, I have it in front of me, on April 3rd, telling me he was being listed because he wrote prescriptions for those scans. When I talked to her, when I did return, and that April 3rd date was the Good Friday. I came down with COVID on Palm Sunday, so I was out those 2 weeks, not able to deal with that. When I did come back during debt qualification, jury selection, I spoke to her about it. She said he would only be testifying to the scripts. Am I right, Ms. Toomey?
That was the intention if we had Dr. Brew available.
Yeah.
We do not, so Dr. Rubino is likely going to be taking the,
So what happened to, who was your original expert to discuss the brain scans? Dr. who?
Dr. Wu, but I didn't even listen because we hadn't gotten the scans done, and so I don't know what they say or don't say. I
Now-
still don't,
Yeah.
because we just got them, I'm hoping to get them today. So if get them today, my understanding is that we have, they've been overnighted, but then our expert will be able to look at them and be able to.
Well, who's your
determine
expert,
whether or not-
who's your expert gonna be?
Rubino, Mark Rubino.
So I'm assuming you need to talk
He's
to,
been listed.
you need to talk to Dr. Rubino,
I
right?
advised Ms. Toomey I'll need to take his depo, but I was not told he may be a possible substitute. She
Right.
had told me they were gonna attempt to get scans done, attempt to get Dr. Wu listed. I haven't seen any discovery. I think I asked counsel about it before the actual trial started. She advised they had not been able to get it done. She didn't know if it would be done. And now we're right here on the eve of the penalty phase, so I don't have a rebuttal expert. I'm trying to scramble now to find somebody. I was under and I don't even know what the scans are. Counsel apparently doesn't know what the scripts are for, the prescriptions, whether it's MRI or PET scans. That's what I've been told.
Ms. Toomey, you know
That
what
makes
those
a difference.
prescriptions are for.
They are for both.
She knows.
Okay, so that's the first time I'm hearing that. So, all right, that restricts which expert. I inquired of one expert who only does MRI. So he does not do PET scans, and so I did not retain him. I can't go out and retain a cluster of experts in anticipation of something I don't have, so. So in any event, we're dealing with that. Now, if she's saying she doesn't have the scans yet, and I depose him tomorrow, he probably will not have opinions about the scans, I'm assuming, because he doesn't have them. Is that right? Or,
That would be correct. And he's actually attending his son's graduation, so he's not.
Okay, so, okay. So it looks like Monday morning you would have to depose him, right? Assuming he's got the scans and he's ready to go, right?
that's fine with the state judge.
Okay. All right, well, that's what we're gonna have to do. It's less than ideal. So state, if we get to penalty phase, I can't imagine your presentation's gonna take all that long.
It's not, Your Honor. We're gonna potentially have victim impact, and then we have a rebuttal witness after the defense is presented.
Okay. So what,
Judge, may I ask a question? We have a couple last minute witnesses, of Mr. Gathright that were hoping to be here, but I thought until today are not going to be able to be here from out of state. Would there be a potential to do a Zoom?
Only if the state agrees.
Are they witnesses that we've already deposed?
I mean, we set depots, but I don't think even really to depose any of them, so,
I'll get with you, if I can take their depositions ahead of time.
yeah.
Those are family members, Ms.
One's
Murphy?
a family, cousin, stepfather, and then the guidance counselor was hoping to be here, had an emergency with his father and was trying to drive down and couldn't come.
Judge, if we could,
We
I
can
would like to
arrange
be,
something.
I'm sorry, excuse me. I'm sorry, go ahead, Ms.
No, I was
Murphy.
saying we can arrange for you to talk with them or whatever before, and we had set out time for you to depose them, and things never got done, but I literally found out today, so I just said that I would ask.
So if we could inquire just to try to figure out how long we think this is be, because I do want to give my doctor, she's trying to block off a day next week or two to, for her testimony.
A day or two. Okay, so I guess let's just start, Mr. Hernandez, Mr. Gonzalez, about how long do you think your presentation would take if we get to penalty phase?
I have some family members, there's actually one from the jail that was transported here, and I think he was actually testifying.
I don't need to know who they are, just tell me how long.
We have a doctor, so overall, I would think that 3 to 4 hours.
Okay, all right, and then, Ms. Toomey, how long do you anticipate?
I have two doctors, two family members, one of which is also affiliated with SARD. And one short, so.
Okay,
Hours of that.
all right, Ms. Finkelstein, what's your best estimate?
I would say, 3 or 4 hours. We have mostly, friends, family, guidance counselors. We have one expert, he's a penal expert. That would be the longer
Yeah.
explanation, but nothing.
Okay, and Mr. Petrides?
There's 5 to 6 lay witnesses and an expert, doctor, so I would say 4 to 5 hours, maybe, maybe
Yeah.
6 at the worst.
So if we give you all Monday morning to wrap up whatever you need to do discovery-wise, and we begin in the afternoon, the opening statements, state's not gonna take that long, and then who's gonna go first? Have you all got a lineup for
We were
penalty
gonna
phase?
go first, because we have an expert that needed to testify on Monday, so that was
Okay,
okay.
that's fine. So I'm guessing probably plan on through and close of business Wednesday to get through all of the defense witnesses, and then Thursday would be rebuttal for the state.
Okay. And Judge, I didn't mean to suggest that our expert's gonna take 2 days, she needs to have a time period to block off on her calendar for when she may.
I'd say Thursday.
Doctor, I have a doctor that may have a conflict later in the week, so you're saying it would definitely be Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Your Honor, if I could, just because we heard some witnesses, I believe Ms. Doherty had advised in the recitation of witnesses to the jury that we didn't recognize as previously being listed. Do you remember who that was that read those?
I don't know, and
Okay.
I honestly can be mistaken, because I've gotten multiple different lists.
Okay, so when you guys come back tomorrow morning, I'm gonna read the jury instructions, you'll all be together, I want everyone to give their final list for penalty phase witnesses, okay?
Thank you.
So you cannot leave this courtroom until you have given each other your final penalty phase witness list.
And Judge, I have one other matter that I may need to continue, but Alicia Andrews is set for motion hearing and or possible sentencing Monday. Do you think I need to ask for a continuance of that, or
What time is it set for?
is it set for
8:30.
I think it's 8:30.
I don't know, because we're not, the way it's shaping up, we're not gonna start court till the afternoon.
Okay.
So only you know what you need to do in the morning for this case. So, okay?
All right, I'll figure it out.
Okey doke.